blame, you mad at
I've been getting on my BNB and stacking these. Pairing it with EMP and then I'm LP. Gotta get myself a bag before the bull run. Gotta take some Eshare, stick it in the boardroom. I've been getting on my BNB and stacking these. Pairing it with EMP and then I'm LP. Gotta get myself a bag before the bull run. Gotta take some Eshare, stick it in the boardroom. E-pop got me waiting 3 more hours. Sticking all these years higher than a tower. Having all these goals feel like superpowers. Investing all this bread, never been a coward. Call me Mr. Bond, money in the vault. I stay in the front, feeling like the goal. Don't worry about the haters, not the detonator. I'm killing every market, call me Terminator. I've been getting on my BNB and stacking these. Pairing it with EMP and then I'm LP. Gotta get myself a bag before the bull run. Gotta take some Eshare, stick it in the boardroom. I've been getting on my BNB and stacking these. Pairing it with EMP and then I'm LP. Gotta get myself a bag before the bull run. Gotta take some Eshare, stick it in the boardroom.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to EMP.Money. My name is AJ, I am the team lead here, and this is our live AMA every Monday and Thursday, and we have another exciting one as usual. Pulsechain is live. Major things to discuss in terms of what that means for the EMP ecosystem. But before we get into all that, we have our co-host with the most back after a fun week with family. LA, how are you?
I'm good. I missed you guys last week, but happy to be here.
Yeah, no, 100%. We held it down while you were busy, and Cody was on. We had a great AMA on Thursday. For those of you that didn't hear that, please go back and listen. Again, we're still trying to roll out Fusion, giving a lot more info every single AMA, answering questions as well. We'll get into all that. We have a few more Q&As at the end here, as well as some updates along the way. I am feeling a little bit under the weather still. We've been burning the candle at both ends, and it's finally catching up. So we're going to try to keep it to about an hour today. But a lot of you have been asking about Pulse and Impulse. So that is what we're going to start out with. We're really bullish on this. I know a lot of you are as well. So let's kind of just go back and give a high-level overview, and then we can talk a little bit more specific. So, as a lot of you know, we're big supporters of Richard Heart and the Richard Heart ecosystems. Whether you love him or hate him, that's a different topic, but you can't argue with the gains that have been made through his project. So I was an original Hex whale, did really well in that, and ultimately sacrificed into Pulse and Pulse X. Now, if you don't know what Pulsechain is, you know, your new EMP may be one of your first projects, then I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed and feel like they're missing out. Simply just sit back and listen and learn, and we'll again try to make this as easy as it can be. But the whole idea is that when we launched EMP, we absolutely had intentions of launching other seigniorage protocols or algorithmic projects on other chains that would basically feed the mothership. So EMP again is always going to be number one, and you know the core community. But we can take advantage of the credibility that we have, the community that we have, and we can apply that to other chains, you know, to make gains as a group. And so we definitely still have plans for Impulse. Impulse was and is the sister project that we came up for Pulsechain. Pulsechain's been about 2 years in the making, so the fact that it's actually live now is pretty incredible. And again, it's one of those moments where it really still hasn't sunk in yet. It went live late last week, and even though the chain is live, there is no bridges up yet. There is no liquidity unless it's Pulse or Pulse X. Pulse is let me back up a little bit more even. Pulse is basically a fork of Ethereum, and Richard Hart wanted to do this to alleviate some of the gas fees that we were seeing on Ethereum. Arbitrum kind of beat Pulse Chain to market in terms of utility, but nobody can compete with the community that Pulse Chain has. So I don't think there is an argument that Pulse Chain was too late. I still think there's a lot of opportunity, and really the economics of Pulse and Pulse X are super powerful. I mean, even in the first few days, there's been I think billions of Pulse X already burned, which is insane. So Pulse X is essentially the DEX token, and Pulse is the gas token. So again, unless you sacrificed, you can't get these tokens now because there is no bridge, and that was part of Richard's plan too, was airdropping these tokens without any value. Because if there is no value, then then you can't be classified as security or have any kind of tax implication and anything like that. So again, Richard's very smart in the way he does things, and you get a copy of all of your Ethereum assets on Pulse Chain. So there's a lot of speculation that USDT and some of the stable coins will maintain value once the bridge is open. Now, I don't know. I mean, again, there's a lot of speculation in that. I don't think necessarily that is going to be the case, especially right off the bat. But over time, as the ecosystem evolves, I think Pulse Chain can be very, very promising. So, again, what does that mean to EMP? For right now, we're just kind of sitting back and observing. I mean, obviously, we would love to launch Impulse with the fusion economics. However, we need to get fusion out at EMP first. So we are discussing, as a team, what that looks like. Obviously, we don't want to miss out on the momentum and the hype of Pulse Chain. But even now, I mean, the bridge, opening up bridges to Pulse Chain could be at least another few weeks to a month. After that, I don't think we're really going to see massive adoption on Pulse Chain for at least another month or two after that, when Richard starts doing, his live streams again. So my point is that we have time, and we're not going to purposely delay Impulse, but there's a lot of things that have to be in place for us to have Impulse launch successfully. So the tentative plan right now is to again just do a simple fork of EMP on Pulse Chain. If we can get Fusion out, then we will implement the Fusion economics into Impulse. But if it's going to be a heavier lift than that, then obviously we don't want to miss out on the momentum. So the short answer is we're still deciding what the best action is. But nonetheless, Impulse will still happen eventually. And again, you can join there's already socials set up for Impulse. You can feel free to join those and learn about it. It is, again, the same sort of concept of EMP, where instead of pegged to Ethereum, we are pegged to Pulse, and you're able to earn again through the seigniorage model. So that's a high-level overview. I wish I had more alpha to drop. Obviously, once all the repositories and liquidity is there, I mean, we sacrificed a ton, but even with the bags that we have, we don't have enough Pulse and Pulse X to be our own bridge. So again, we kind of have to be reliant on the ecosystem getting up and running before we can open it up to, the community and actually have a legitimate project out of it. So I would encourage everybody to learn everything they can about Pulsechain. Again, right now it's just very early, and I think, even a lot of speculative plays, you can get killed on impermanent loss. I think that people get eager, but sometimes the best play is to just sit back and observe until everything is coming together. So, all right, that's a high-level overview of Pulsechain and Impulse. I'm happy to take a few questions about it. But LA, was there anything you wanted me to clarify or go over further in terms of Impulse or Pulsechain?
No, I think that was a good overview. I did just post the socials that we've created into the YouTube chat. So we've got our Telegram and our Discord there. And if you guys have any questions, just type them into the YouTube chat for us and we'll ask them.
Perfect. So yeah, and again, I mean, we're as early as it gets, and this is the same sort of rollout that I think we're going to see with L1X as well. And I'm not a firm believer. We talked about this a lot about tribalism. For the same reason I don't think Pulse Chain is late to the party. That Arbitrum is better. And that I don't think L1X is going to be the one chain to rule them all. That we send a lot of our other AMAs. I think L1X will be the one chain to unite them all. So that was another question that I saw, is what does this mean in terms of L1X and everything else? So the short answer is we want to be on every popular chain that there is. And exposure to every popular chain. Obviously, we were busy building Fusion, or we probably would have done another seigniorage model on Arbitrum. Obviously, that's been getting great results, and we missed the boat a little bit on that. But you have to realize too, like there's only so many hours in the day. And so much development that can happen, and we have to prioritize what is going to be the best for the ecosystem as a whole. And right now, that is getting Fusion out the door, stopping all of the bleeding, optimizing the system, again, building a better system that is more sustainable and doesn't rely on some of the pitfalls we've seen in other seigniorage protocols. So Fusion is and will be the number one priority. But obviously, if there's opportunity with Impulse, then we can switch gears, short term for that. So, and there's a lot of other things to consider too. I mean, we're talking about it as a team now. Obviously, we don't want to just launch Impulse and have a lot of the liquidity leave EMP. If anything, that would be a detriment to EMP and really your own bags because a part of the profits in terms of yield from Impulse will support EMP. So you wouldn't want to basically cut off your nose to spite your face or cut down your money tree is how we've said it in the past too. So even when and if we do launch Impulse, I would 100% suggest using new capital or consolidating your other bags that may not be producing to go into something like that. So remember that EMP is always going to be the mothership. So yeah, go ahead, Ellie. You want to add to that?
That's a perfect segue into one of the questions from our list today. It's the only Pulse Chain related one. It's with the launch of Pulse Chain and upcoming Impulse, will any revenues from Impulse feed into EMP Fusion?
Yeah, 100%. So we've been perfectly open and clear about this. I mean, if you're a VIP member and you've been a good actor, again, we're trying to get away from that good actor, bad actor comparison. But you will have first access on Impulse. I mean, obviously, we're still figuring out if we can launch with the Fusion economics. But if not, then it'll be the typical seigniorage model where there will be a genesis phase and early access opportunity, and typically those people that have proven to be good actors, not only are they getting in early, but they're also helping us establish a floor, which is what made EMP extremely successful to begin with. We called it our Select 7. That was our original Genesis whales that did, the original Genesis phase. For those that don't know, that's where the initial tokens and liquidity is minted. And usually you see the team dumping on everybody's heads in these seigniorage protocols. That's why they don't last more than a week or a month. But we made a commitment not to do that, and none of the original team, other than one person, but we overcame that as well, dumped any tokens, and that allowed us to grow substantially and really make EMP what it is. One of the many reasons EMP is different. But that same concept would apply to Impulse with our good actors and our VIPs. So those of you that are, again, in that would have access early. Some of you have already sacrificed, so you have Pulse and Pulse X to contribute, but some of you haven't. So that's another reason why we have to wait until a bridge is open where people can get funds over and actually buy PLS or Pulse X to even participate. So, but part of that, again, part of our inflation goes to the team. In these, again, in EMP, we get Eshare. That's what helps pay the bills. But again, it's very minimal. But the point is that yes, Impulse will be a revenue stream for EMP, and depending on the growth, obviously, we're not going to be dumping Impulse and the iShare, which is the equivalent to eShare. We're not be dumping it on everybody's heads, but in the beginning, when the hype is there, obviously we can take profit above peg in a healthy manner, and that is pure revenue for EMP. So yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want to, negatively impact Impulse, but we also want to use Impulse as a tool to support EMP. And there's room for everybody to win. That's the cool part about seigniorage protocols, is that everybody can win, at least in the beginning, before the inflation really takes over. So all that is being worked on behind the scenes. Again, we just don't want to make any hasty decisions that come back to hurt us in the end. So does that answer, LA?
Yes, so can you just reiterate, because there's another question in the comments. So Impulse is dependent on Pulse Bridge or Fusion first before anything?
Yeah, so a bit of both. I mean, number one, it's dependent on the bridge. So once the bridges are up and live, if we see a bunch of momentum and hype around Pulse, then we need to act faster. So in that case, it would just be a simple fork of EMP. But if we have time, if the bridges, are another month or two away, and people are not, we don't see the hype around Pulse Chain, like we saw with Arbitrum in the beginning, that will buy us more time, and then we can actually implement fusion economics into Impulse. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, and we just have to play it by ear. But regardless, Impulse will still happen. It's just gonna be dependent on the way things roll out. Does that help?
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. All right. All right. Yeah, I think I'm reading the other questions. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So again, and the reason that we would want to prioritize the fusion model for Impulse is just the sustainability. I mean, I think that no matter what, we can make it work, but if we can do things right from the very beginning, that eliminates a lot of human error. Again, the same reason that we're moving to Fusion to begin with. I mean, if we can obviously, if we can implement a much better model with Impulse, we would much rather do that, and that makes it more sustainable for everybody involved. So, yeah, just again, food for thought, and we'll keep you up to date. I mean, again, Pulsechain's been live for about 5 days, 4 days, if that. So this is still so early, and it's going to be exciting because this gives us another opportunity to earn within our ecosystem. So I think, again, the more you can educate yourself on everything, the better you will be long term. So, all right, awesome. I think that's all for Pulse Chain then, and Impulse. Any other questions, LA?
Not that I can see.
All right, perfect. So let's go on to some other updates. Again, the DEX. Speaking of L1X and revenue streams, we should have an update on the DEX this week. I know I said we were hoping to have it done last week, but we've been again spread super thin. But we're finalizing the branding of the DEX and finalizing some meetings. I went down to Miami last week to meet with the L1X team in person. Had a very productive meeting with them. Um, Jake from Dex Finance, their team have been building the MVP of the Dex. So everything is really moving forward on track. And hopefully this week we'll be able to finally release the branding as well as our socials for the DEX itself. But remember, EMP and DEX Finance are building the launch DEX for L1X, and this is massive in terms of potential revenue for EMP and DEX. So, and speaking of DEX Finance, they're going through a migration as well. So if you have not read or heard about that, please remove your positions in the DEX vaults. We did an update on that last week. If you're, again, in any vaults that have DEX share or US DEX, you will want to remove your position there and then migrate to their new token. So, and if you're in a pool with EMP LP, or any of the EMP products, you can still stay in those pools, but just remember, once we go into fusion, those pools will no longer yield. So I would suggest a lot of you start kind of pulling your LPs out of any of the auto vaults, whether it's Beefy or Dex vaults or Yield Wolf or Magic, any of those, and just put them in the farm on the website. It won't auto compound for you, but you'll be able to earn eShare nonetheless, and that'll help you still earn while we are preparing for fusion. So again, if you're not in any of those vaults, then you don't have to worry about anything, but definitely prepare for that migration. And yeah, I mean, part of the revenue from that DEX will then go to support EMP and DEX as real yield into those protocols. So again, having exposure to both ecosystems is massive, and the DEX will be a major player in all that. So. Does that, again, you want to go into anything else, LA, or any questions about the DEX itself?
Yeah, no, we're just to reiterate, we're finalizing the branding. It's super bullish, and having some exciting meetings behind the scenes, and some of the stuff we're chatting about, I'm very, very, very excited about. So as things progress, my excitement level is rising. So obviously we're still a ways away, but there's a lot getting accomplished behind the scenes. And so we're excited to keep updating you guys as things progress and as things get worked on.
Yeah, totally. And again, I know, obviously we talked about this in the AMA last week. Everybody wants it done, yesterday. But unfortunately, we're moving as fast as we can, and we want to roll things out in a very safe and methodical manner. But with that, we need to have patience as well. So I don't want the lack of updates or lack of rollouts to equate to that we're not doing anything. It's just that we have to do things in a very particular way. So, and again, we're way ahead of schedule. Even the L1X itself, they're looking to launch in August. We have some killer updates coming with that. They're on schedule, if not ahead of schedule. So all of that is looking good for the future. So all right, awesome. All right, you want to move on to Fusion updates, LA?
Oh yeah.
All right, so again, I know we alluded to maybe having some alpha today. We're hoping to be able to drop the price of batteries. Unfortunately, we're really not ready to do that yet. And we had a long discussion as a team, and there are a lot of things in Fusion that we want there to be some speculation on. We would love to be able to give everybody the roadmap, and all the details before launch. And we will do that in terms of what is absolutely imperative. But we also can't just, lay it all out there in terms of having no speculation, because that is what drives value. So we can say that batteries will be affordable. Again, Cody dropped some alpha in the last AMA. If you can afford a dinner with your loved one, you can afford a battery. They will not be that expensive, and they will scale depending on your energy production. So if you're a minnow, you only need one battery. It's not a break the bank to be able to get one. But if you're a whale and you have a ton of energy production, you're going to want to buy multiple batteries and combine them to be able to capture all that energy. So again, just we will definitely be able to kind of start putting the pieces together, but we don't want to just put it all out there either. And LA, I know you had a very productive meeting today with some potential explainer videos. You want to talk about that just a little bit?
For sure. So one of our amazing VIPs, DeFi Jen, and I had a great call, and we're going to be working together on creating a number of explainer videos for Fusion. And so we had a great call and started working on things today. And over the next couple weeks, we're going to be getting a bunch of videos created to explain Fusion in a very broken down, simple way, so that it's even much more simple than the white paper, in very easy to understand language and broken down into small chunks, so that whether you have 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or if you want to watch all of them in a row, if you have 20 minutes, no matter what your situation is, you have access to an alternate tool to better understand. And so we're going to be working on that. I'm going to dive in and start on it tonight. So we're going to be getting those made as soon as possible, and excited to have an additional tool for everyone to understand even better. So super grateful for all of the amazing effort put out by so many of our VIPs and Army members, and just how willing everyone is to put their hand up to offer help and support to make things even better in our ecosystem.
Yeah, no doubt, LA. I could not agree more. Even as we see some more pullback on the charts and price action, the ones that are still here in VIP and Army, and the ones that are ride or die with us have really been stepping up, and that's the beautiful part. I've said this a lot in terms of the way the protocol operates. I use this word called poetic justice, or phrase, and what I mean by poetic justice is the ones that have a long-term mindset, the ones that invest in their investment, the ones that help us grow as a protocol, the ones that are positive and not negative, the ones that don't focus on, the actual price and instead focus on, the yield and the building that we've been doing over the last year and a half. Those are the people in EMP that are going to win the most. And that is just a beautiful design of how this economic system is created. The swing traders and the people that are here to get in and out, people that are here to speculate on, the price of EMP and eShare, those are the ones that, aren't going to have the long-term success that everybody else that is here for the long run will have. And again, I think, once people understand the fusion transition, all that does is continue to bolster everybody else's earnings and potential that have been here. And that doesn't say that new participants will be at a disadvantage, because again, once we're back at Peg and we do a whole new advertising campaign, there'll be a ton of new volume, and APR should be very juicy in Fusion. But it does show that those that have been here and still continue to accumulate are going to be set up for some major success. So again, I just wanted to reiterate that too. But all right, I think more info coming. Again, we're always going to be updating Fusion and educating. I think every week more and more people understand how this is actually going to work. But in the meantime, one of the questions that we've seen come up again and again, obviously, is Detonator and nodes. So we just want to go over real fast why it's so bullish that Detonator and node claims will now flow into the central grid, especially for those of you that have a more diversified position, and really, use that as a tool to build your ownership. So, the number one thing that we keep seeing is, my daily burst is going down. I cannot, I'm not able to claim more than what gas fees are. Are we going down with the sinking ship in terms of Detonator? And the short answer is Fusion is going to be, again, the tweak or change that will help fix that. And again, when I say Detonator, that applies to Reactor, Generator, any of the DAAS products. So what will happen is, rather than being able to just claim and dump, which again, as the pool balance goes down, a lot of the whales even are just getting scared or nervous, and they claim every day and they dump, and that has a negative effect on daily burst. No matter what happens, if the pool balance goes down, then that will reduce the amount of rewards that you can claim or compound. It's that simple. I mean, nothing has changed from the original white paper when we launched these contracts. So the idea is that we are eliminating the drain by making it to where you have to claim into the central grid, and that will really start to stop the bleeding and allow both Detonator and Detonator contracts, as well as the nodes, to stop being a negative downward selling pressure on PEG and EMP and all the related assets. And then we can start building the pool balance up with the incentives that are already in place. And so, again, I think it'll be a rapid recovery when people start realizing the daily burst is going up, the value of those assets are going up again from PEG. That's almost a 4x alone on PEG value and in terms of dollar value, being back at PEG, and that more people will be depositing into those contracts because the pool balances are not draining. And if you are just wanting to cash out, so to speak, you will be able to sell your microgrid at any time. And so, again, it may take you a little longer to build that microgrid, but you're not locked into, fusion, even if you want to get out. It's just a much more healthier way of exiting the protocol than what we have now. So, LA, I don't know if you want to elaborate again. Sometimes it's good
For
to hear
sure.
a different perspective. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, where I want to take this conversation is like you did a great job describing how it's so bullish for the ecosystem. But where I want to take this conversation is why it's actually so bullish for the individual. Um, so, um, the reason that it's so beneficial to have those detonator and node claims to flow into the central grid, especially for those of you who have a well diverse position right now and will have that initial chunk to sacrifice into the central grid. What I'm about to say doesn't necessarily apply to those of you who are only in nodes or only in detonator. But for those of you who are well diverse and you have that chunk in the farm, or you have recently purchased that chunk of EMP and Eshare to get ready for fusion, if you have that chunk that you're starting in the central grid with, um, uh, the the central grid, you have that chunk, you're earning your energy every day, and you have a constant inflow of additional funds, whether you're claiming from your nodes daily or weekly, however often you decide you want to. Same goes for Detonator. You are having a constant inflow of funds to build up your pool share ownership percentage in the central grid. And that means that even for the minnow, you are having a way to constantly build up your share of the protocol, your ownership percentage of the protocol, and you're building it and building it and building it. So not only are we doing something that is extremely healthy for the overall sustainability of the protocol. And ultimately, these decisions were made so that this protocol can be around in a year from now, in a few years from now, and we can all be still on these calls and we can all do our in-person meetups and be celebrating because we've created, an incredibly sustainable protocol. But we've also kept all of you in mind, whether you're a small minnow or a huge whale. And this is incredibly beneficial because it gives you options. Yes, you can sell your detonator position, or you can use it extremely bullishly to feed into that central grid position every day, every week, once a month, however often you decide you want to build up your ownership. And there's gonna be people that claim from their microgrid every day, and they might just want to use their cash out batteries to cash out their rewards, and they never use their rewards to build up their central grid position. And you have an opportunity to build your central grid position and inch by inch get ahead of those people on the leaderboard. You have an opportunity to build and grow constantly and consistently. And in life, there's something that I've realized: it's consistent action that makes the biggest difference. It's not these huge one time actions necessarily that make the biggest difference. It is that inch that you move every single day that ends up being the biggest difference in our lives. And I completely believe that, this is a perfect example of that. So I don't know if you want to add to that, AJ, but.
All right, sorry, I was muted again. Yeah, no, 100% LA. I mean, that is again, we talk about guardrails or eliminating the human error. We're trying to put things in place that make you a better investor and a better participant, not only for the protocol, but for your own bags. Again, I mean, I've said it on almost every AMA, the richest people in the world, they accumulate their wealth through income producing assets, whether that's an investment or a business or real estate. Those are that's how wealth is generated. And, we're putting these systems in place to allow you to, like I said, consistently every single day build your position and ownership of the protocol. And to her point, even if people just want to cash out every day, that's okay. Again, it's going to be a slower process, but those that aren't just, continuing to bleed the system, they're building their position. And over time, you get way more in terms of yield and potential income by doing that. And that has been the goal of EMP from day one, is to produce a sustainable protocol that again, not only gives you exposure to Ethereum, but also is a passive income play. And Fusion just is a much better version of all that. And through these AMAs and the how-to videos we're working on now, I think all of you will finally realize that. And if you don't yet, that's okay. I mean, instead of getting upset and saying, this sucks, or EMP is changing the rules, take a step back and really understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and you'll understand that we really aren't changing the rules, that we're just putting a few more steps in place that actually benefit you and the protocol over time. So again, a lot of times you have to trade, time for money instead of trading money for time. And so we are trying to do that balance of, sustainability. So, all right, awesome. I think that was a good overview, LA. That was great. I think a lot of people have those concerns, but hopefully that helps, make it a little more clear. So, all right, do we want to move into some questions now?
Yeah.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
Yes. And I think this first one's an important one because I do want to reiterate again the whole it's not a 3x multiplier thing. So, how is it that after sacrificing our EMP into Fusion, we will potentially receive at least the same APR as the farms are paying today if EMP will be valued at peg and dollar amount should be 3x? Assuming eShare price stays the same and the same amount of eShare is being emitted daily, how can everyone be paid the same APR on a 3x? What am I missing? Is this statement assuming eShare price will increase by 3x? So
Yeah, so
there's some important distinctions to be made there while answering the question.
totally. So yeah, I'll do a deep dive, and then you can feel free to back me up too. But there's a lot to unpack. So the number one thing is that it's not a guaranteed 3x. So as of right now, it's a little more than a 3x actually. But that is based on the price of EMP today. So it's not a guaranteed 3x. And as PEG starts to increase, it's a lot less of an multiplier, which again just protects those of you that are accumulating now. So that's the first thing we need to clarify. And furthermore, the best way that I can describe it is almost like a futures contract, where we as a protocol are so confident that we're able to regain peg that we are honoring the peg price now. And it's in terms of we did a great deep dive on this with Jesse on the last AMA for those of you that want to listen back. And really, it's in terms of the underlying asset. So your microgrid represents a certain amount of EMP that is single staked. And when you sacrifice, you're getting the dollar value at that multiple, but the EMP itself in the NFT, that is what it is. I mean, we're not producing more EMP. Again, we're moving away from the inflationary model, and that microgrid represents however much EMP that you're sacrificing. And so, that the multiple is on dollar value, not on actual EMP. So again, that's just another thing. And then when we are at peg anybody that's going to be buying into Fusion, they're paying prices at peg value. So again, they're anybody that's getting in and sacrificing now has a bit of a head start because they're accumulating below peg and we're honoring the value. So again, it really, you know, it has a lot more to do with the future value of EMP rather than the current value of EMP. And the reason that we're able to do that is because we're confident that we will be able to regain peg. And in terms of APR, obviously APR is reliant on the price of Eshare, but as peg recovers, we usually see that reflect in the price of Eshare. People get confident on eShare as peg goes up. Now, usually that was because of the boardroom, and because the boardroom is kind of going away in the traditional sense. I think that worries people, but the same mechanism should hold true that as we regain peg, eShare becomes even more valuable. And again, it's based on volume. So we'll have new blood entering the ecosystem. We'll have revenue streams that are bolstering the APRs. All of that is not happening at the moment. So all that will help. So LA, I got a crying baby. So you want to add to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, like, just to reiterate the part about the 3x, when I put that example down that day, the reason that the 3x was mentioned was simply because the math on that specific day was a 3x. But saying that the multiplier that we're offering is a 3x is not accurate. Let's change our dialogue back to saying 1-to-1 ratio at the dollar value of peg, just so that we can keep it clear in our minds. And the reason that I'm saying that is because that wording is so bullish, because as we get closer and closer to peg, that multiplier becomes less and less and less of an incentive, which means that it drives people to buy the lower that we are. And it's going to be ongoing as far as I know. And so once we do get back to peg, every time we dip below, it's an incentive to buy EMP again and get us back up to peg. That in itself traditionally has always helped to raise APRs, as typically in the old system, at least, the eShare values have been closely linked with the peg value. Now, that's not a guarantee that that will be the case with Fusion. Only time will tell with that, but that has been the case in the past. But this was designed to drive us closer to peg, not only now, but in the future as well. I'm not doing the greatest job of explaining it, but
No, I
AJ,
love
you
it.
can.
Yeah, Ellen, that was a great point. I wanted to end with that. And you did an amazing job explaining it. So, yeah, I mean, that is another really important concept, and why we did it the way we are doing it is that, yes, this sacrifice phase will be open indefinitely. So, typically we see bonds in the traditional seigniorage model. We see bonds as a mechanism to, again, buy below peg and then redeem at a higher price. But that assumes that we have to get back over peg, and a lot of people that go into bonds are left holding the bag, especially on a protocol that never recovers. So this is a much better version of that economic incentive, where every time we see us go below peg in the future, which we're thinking is going to be very minimal at the very most anyway. But that again gives you a perfect way to just buy EMP off the market and sacrifice it directly, rather than just buying straight into Fusion or buying a microgrid on the secondary market, because you're getting that little bit of a bonus every time we're below peg. And over time, this adds massive buying pressure and makes our peg almost, rock solid or bulletproof moving forward. And again, that's why we're so confident in, that 1-to-1 ratio that we're rolling out. So yeah, I think you did a great job explaining it, LA. And again, the more that we reiterate it, I think people will finally realize the true, potential that's here. And even now, if you're a whale, you bought a shit ton of EMP at today's prices, and then just sacrificed all that into the central grid. You built up a massive microgrid. Then you could sell that microgrid at that 3x, or by then 2x, or even at a double. I mean, that's huge. And there has to be a buyer on the other end. So again, that's another thing. Like the money has to come from somewhere. So please don't get it, misconstrued that we're creating money out of nowhere. There definitely has to be a buyer of that microgrid, but that microgrid still represents, a lot more EMP in terms of dollar value than it would at today's prices. So again, hopefully that helps clear things up.
Sorry, I just want to address this. There's a comment on the YouTube about how we should stop doing AMAs where we're answering questions like this. I just want to let you know, like, we take a lot of time to prepare all of this ahead of time, to compile all of your questions, to make sure that we are getting every single question answered so that everyone in the community can feel safe and comfortable and confident going into Fusion. There's absolutely no requirement to be here, but an attitude of gratitude is something that would be amazing, as opposed to that negative criticism, because there's a lot that goes into this, and this is what has been asked for. And so this is what we're delivering. If there's something else that you would like to incorporate, we're all ears, but we're doing our best to give everyone what they need and what they desire. And so that is not helpful.
Agreed. Totally. We're going to be continuing to be as transparent and forthcoming with the info that we have from here on out. I mean, that's what built EMP into what it is. If you think that AMAs are repetitive and unproductive, then you don't have to join them. So we're just going to continue. Again, kicking the can down the road, I think, is a very short-minded comparison. The work is being done. Again, I don't know what more. I'm happy to have feedback on that. What would help people see the work that is going in. I'm happy to have Jake or the other devs like on an AMA if that would help. I mean, obviously it takes time away from them developing to be on our AMA, but if that would help everybody's confidence, then we're more than happy to do that. And again, I mean, I don't know any other team in DeFi that does what we do in terms of transparency and trying to keep everybody in the loop. If you think it's repetitive, I'm sorry, but a lot of other people still have no idea what's going on with Fusion, and a lot of people don't even again invest in their investment. And
Yeah.
if you're one of them, there's nothing that we can do as a team to help you. So we have to draw the line somewhere for sure.
Yeah. Funny thing is, there was a name thrown out in the comments comparing, and I actually joined that person's protocol when I first started in DeFi. And about a week after I joined, the entire protocol got put on pause for about 7 months. And in those 7 months, there was maybe 2 AMAs to update investors on what was going on, and we were left completely in the dark. So to ever compare us to that is just hilarious. But anyways, let's continue on.
All right, perfect. Next question. Yes.
um, always smiles. if the boardroom will be shut off and no more EMP will be minted, why is PEG important going forwards? What inherently about EMP at PEG will make eShare more valuable and have the ecosystem firing on all cylinders?
Yeah, totally. So again, great question. Um, PEG is important because we become an actual collateralized asset. So, there's a difference. Again, I think people just try to put everything in one bag, but you have to really separate things overall. So the um, the age-old issue of an algorithmic token is that it either has to be over collateralized, meaning there is more assets backing the collateralization than there is not, and that's really beneficial in terms of safety, but it's not beneficial in terms of economic in terms of economic efficiency. Meaning, if you had $1 million backing an asset that's worth $1 million, that's great. That's super safe. There's very little risk, but that $1 million is just sitting there doing nothing, and you can't yield on that $1 million. It's very inefficient. So the whole concept with algorithmic tokens, or an algorithmically backed token, is that you're able to maintain this collateralization without necessarily having the reserves to do so. And this makes it very efficient, but again, the risk is higher, and we've seen all these tokens eventually fail. So we're trying to move away from that in terms of how the boardroom operates and introducing new supply into the ecosystem through the boardroom, and instead move into more of a fractionalized system. So PEG is still really important because that is the true ratio of, again, 4,000 to 1 Ethereum, and that makes EMP actual fractionalized Ethereum, even though we may or may not have, the one-to-one backing and reserves. Now, the idea is that moving forward through fusion, once our treasury is healthy, that we can start moving to a fully collateralized EMP, which without minting new EMP tokens, that's a lot easier to do because we know how much we need to have in reserves to back it fully. So all that is part of the long-term plan of EMP and the way Fusion operates. But again, in the short term, Fusion allows us to actually solve the algorithmic dilemma that a lot of other protocols have never been able to solve. And once we have the revenue streams and we're able to maintain PEG in a very tight range, I mean, that is going to be newsworthy on its own, where we are one of the only, algorithmic tokens that have achieved parity and been able to hold parity. So, again, that is totally separate from how the boardroom operates. And, I would say what gives eShare value now is just, again, the utility that eShare brings. eShare moves more into a utility token, being the only token that the marketplace transacts in, and having it be, again, the liquid version of energy. So that's where eShare gets its value. And the same concept still applies from the boardroom, even though, eShare isn't the mechanism to produce more EMP. I would argue, again, we don't know because Fusion is not out yet, but I would argue that as we recover PEG, we will absolutely see more confidence go into eShare, simply, because the ecosystem as a whole is firing on all cylinders. And we've said this before, once we recover PEG, and Detonator and Reactor and all the DAAS products are healthy again, then we can divert some of the buying pressure to eShare directly. And that will also help eShare grow over time as, again, the protocol is more and more healthy. Because if we don't have to put any emissions towards peg recovery, and all of our revenue streams are paying out massive APR just for being a part of Fusion, then now we have a lot more flexibility to support the price of eShare in the long term as well. And eShare, again, even though eShare is inflationary still, the halving model, I mean, there will be a point very soon where there's a lot less eShare than people realize, and once we can start burning it as well, we could see massive appreciation on eShare as well. So again, that's not financial advice. I'm not here to speculate on the price of EMP or eShare, but I am here to say we have a lot of mechanisms in place that would theoretically help.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So here's another one. There is not a peg credit/bonus with eShare sacrificing as there is with EMP sacrificing, correct? But what does an EMP sacrifice to the central grid actually mean? For example, what does $1,000 EMP sacrifice actually get you? I understand some kind of percentage of ownership, yes, but what does that get you in terms of ROI? What does percentage of ownership, how does percentage of ownership affect APR?
Okay, so unfortunately, those are questions that we really just can't answer because the amount of ownership, again, let's just give easy numbers. Say there was $1,000 a day in rewards for being part of Fusion. Well, if there's only 10 people in the pool, so to speak, or 10 people that have a microgrid or ownership, then that means each person would get $100 a day. But some people are going to have larger ownerships, some people are going to have smaller ownerships, some people are going to be claiming, while others are going to be compounding. If you're claiming through batteries, that energy is not going towards your ownership, and those that are compounding or letting the BBE work, they're getting a higher percentage of ownership. So it's a dynamic. There's like 10 or more probably, or no, there's probably 50 different variables that will go into the actual ROI that you're getting. So that's really difficult to answer. I mean, obviously, with the way things are right now, all of the emissions in terms of eShare, which is about 64 eShare a day, that will start going to the central grid directly. So whatever the APR is at the moment, it should be at least that, if not more, because again, with any of our revenue streams, that will also be helping, the APRs and the rewards. But yeah, that's just really difficult to answer. LA, was there any part of that question that we can answer? I don't know. There was like 10
Yes,
different
the
questions.
very first sentence. There is not a peg credit/bonus with eShare sacrificing as there is with EMP sacrificing, correct? So maybe you can go into about the fact that there is bonuses for eShare sacrificing.
Yeah, totally. So eShare, we not only, again, EMP, you're getting that multiplier being under peg, and we did that a bit on purpose because, obviously we need to get peg moving in the right direction, and it's always been the underlying strategy to take profit in the share token to support the peg token, and that's how these senior protocols work to begin with. So we wanted to give the multiplier in terms of being under peg to EMP first and foremost to start getting that peg recovery in action. But there will be a bonus to eShare as well on the time. So the earlier that you sacrifice, again, we'll have all this in the white paper before sacrifice is open, but both EMP and eShare will have a time multiplier as well, meaning the earlier that you sacrifice, the higher bonus you get as well. And this is important because we want to encourage people, to sacrifice as much EMP and eShare as soon as possible. So it'll probably be about 24-hour windows. Again, you can look at some other things like the pulse sacrifice for inspiration on how we're going to do this. But essentially, there'll be a large multiplier, and every day after sacrifice is announced, that multiplier will reduce. So you're going to want to sacrifice as much as you can, as early as you can, and that will give a bonus to eShare as well. But we haven't released that math yet. So does that help, LA?
Yep, love it. And I just want to have a tiny intermission to say this. Pay attention to what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on things that are holding you back from really seeing the big picture because you're obsessed with seeing that one dot on the picture that's holding you back and you're feeling negative about, and you can't stop staring at it, and you are ignoring the entire beautiful, huge landscape around it? Because I feel like a lot of you are doing that right now. And you're so obsessed with staring at that dot on the page that you're not seeing the big picture. So pay attention to what you're focusing on.
Totally. I love it,
There,
LA.
yeah. So here's the next question. I wonder. Okay, so this kind of goes along with that one. Let's see. Okay, we're going to skip that one because it's pretty much the same, asking about the APR based on your pool ownership percentage. So we're going to skip that one. Preparing for fusion. Is it a good plan to continue building my detonator position?
Yep, so real fast too, before we move on, I do want to just say one more thing about the APR calculation. I think, again, the way that for these people that want to try to plan, we will have a running leaderboard, for lack of a better word, once sacrifice is live. So you will be able to know kind of where you stand in terms of what you've sacrificed and what that equates to in terms of ownership. You're not going to necessarily know the ROI or the APR from that, but it will give you an idea of how you stack up with others. And I think that will be super bullish for a lot of you, again, that do have large positions at EMP. So I did just want to make sure I mentioned that. And that is part of the UI that we'll be rolling out. So that could also drive FOMO as well. I mean, if you have not accumulated enough EMP or eShare, you can see, that maybe you should now to be able to keep up with those, the ones that are building ownership. So, all right, sorry, go ahead, LA. One more time, the new question?
Preparing for fusion. Is it a good plan to continue building my detonator position?
Yeah, so I'm not able to give financial advice. I think that if you're playing Detonator or DAAS products the way they are intended, where you're trying to snipe or activate, the win it now or somehow win the lottery, those are the three things that are going to really boost your ownership of those pools. If you're just DCAing into Detonator, you're going to have a lot harder time keeping up with ownership. And that's just part of the game theory that these DAAS products, are. And we never changed that. I mean, that was outlined in day one of the white paper. We've never altered the white paper on any of the DAAS products. Just some people we're playing the game more efficiently than others. And, that's not our fault as a dev team by any means. So I can't say that yes, it's a good idea or no, it's not a good idea. It's up to you as the individual. But I can say that DAAS products, become more of a speculative play to increase your ownership in Fusion without sacrificing directly. So who knows? I mean, I don't even. It's not that I don't want to tell you the answer. I don't even know the answer. And what I mean by that is, there may be a situation where those of you that have won the largest depositor prizes and are accumulating positions in Detonator today, maybe you actually get more of a bonus in Fusion than others that get in later. I mean, Detonator and DAAS products become a speculative play to, again, try to get ahead of the game. And maybe they don't. Again, maybe we just don't know. Maybe the better play is to just go straight into sacrificing EMP. So it's up to you. I would say, when we do hit a floor in Detonator or DAS products, and then the floodgates open again for new capital to enter, by that time it's usually too late. And, meaning everybody's going to be wanting to get back into Detonator again. And it's going to be a lot harder to compete for the daily largest prizes. And so, again, not financial advice, but you typically want to buy or enter when people are fearful and take profit or exit when people are greedy. And so, again, that sort of mentality could apply to Detonator and DAS products, but I'm not here to say one way or the other.
Awesome. Okay. I'm interested in knowing if Eshare is a liquid asset on the Fusion platform. If I were to accumulate 10 Eshare and then the value of Eshare increases, will I have to wait for my gain to be released through the central grid as yield, or can I swap it to energy and pay the 3% tax and exit my position immediately?
Yeah, so if you have liquid eShare, you can just speculate on eShare. So you don't even have to apply it to Fusion whatsoever. And that's a really cool part about, the way this works, is that, again, yeah, eShare will market. Basically, it'll go up, it'll go down. There'll be people that swing trade it. And that's okay because eShare doesn't affect the protocol negatively. And that was one of the reasons we got a lot of pushback on switching things around, where we make eShare more of the transactional token in the ecosystem rather than EMP. But the reason that we did that in Fusion is because, again, that volatility and that speculation on eShare doesn't negatively affect PEG. So yeah, it's a bit of a switcheroo, but we did it because it's more healthy to do it that way. And again, to answer your question, you can just buy and hold eShare and sell it on the open market when it goes up. Now, I think a lot of people will try to convert that eShare into energy. Again, there'll be the 3% fee going in, but then you can again get other utility-based things with that eShare, and there's going to be a whole game theory around that as well. Meaning, maybe you can buy eShare at low, and then redeem eShare for energy at a higher price, just like you would trade, a token on the open market. You can do that same sort of trade within Fusion and get even more of a bonus on the energy that eShare redeems. So yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways to do it. You could just sell it outright. You can apply it to Fusion. But at the end of the day, eShare is still a free market, and that's bullish for again, never impacting peg overall. So does that answer, LA? I don't know if you want to make any more points on that.
Yeah, no, that answered it perfectly. All right. I'm concerned about the battery purchase and the necessary power cycling, the 3% tax, and the required gas fee from BNB. These requirements make selling an asset too much through the central grid, in my opinion. For example, you got an active ETH battery and it pays out every day. Do you have a daily transaction of 20 to 40 cents per gas? Or can you choose / build up and pay out once per month? Is this when you would buy a battery with a larger capacity that would take longer time to power cycle and pay out?
I love it. So yes, I mean, again, I see people's wheels in their heads starting to turn, and this is a perfect example of that. So yeah, I mean, if anything, we're producing less tax liability, less gas transactions, making things even more efficient in the Fusion ecosystem. Because when rewards hit your wallet, um, in the current system, that's a taxable event. But if you're just accumulating energy, and the only time that the actual payout happens is when the battery hits a power cycle, that's a benefit for everybody. And for you, you don't have to pay a gas fee until that power cycle completes and you actually claim your reward. So again, it is more efficient. And to that point, I love the ending of this question. Yeah, I mean, that would be a perfect reason to increase your battery capacity, is because now you can just let it accumulate. Have your again battery fill up 100% passively, where you don't even have to look or even worry about EMP as a protocol until once a month. And at the end of every month, you have such a big battery that your power cycle, could be an entire Ethereum every month. You just let it accumulate. Once the power cycle happens once, boom, that's it. You pay one gas fee, and now you're collecting. So yeah, I mean, all of that is part of the infrastructure that we're building for sure.
Awesome. Will EMP always be pegged 4,000 to 1, or might that change eventually to 2,000 or 1,000?
Nope, as of right now, will always be 4,000 to 1. So even if ETH goes to, $400,000 a piece, that ratio would still be there. And the ratio's, a bit irrelevant. It just means, the higher the price of Ethereum, the higher the price of EMP.
Perfect. Only a couple left. I have a heavy SPS BNB generator position. How should I be preparing for Fusion? Will I ever reach my max payout in generator? Will Fusion help with this?
Yeah, so just with every, DAAS product, the idea is that, it removes some of the drain on those products. So SPS, PMB, same sort of deal. You're credited into Fusion at the dollar value, and then you can build your microgrid, and then you can cash out in maybe just SPS or just BNB or any other asset that you may want to cash out in eventually. And the idea is that over time, that really reduces the selling pressure on those LPs and allows us to start the pool balance going up again. So, and we still have a great relationship with Splinterlands. They made a major announcement today, actually, about SPS. They're requiring a lot more staking. So we could see SPS absolutely, mooning. Um, and that would do wonders for, again, the dollar value and the ROI time of these contracts. Because you have to remember, I mean, ROI, typically when you talk about ROI, and APR, that is based on dollar value. So we could have any of these assets in any of the detonator style contracts. They could 10x overnight, and that would literally reduce your ROI by 10. So the argument of, I'm never gonna get my ROI, I'm never gonna, be able to get my initial out, all of that becomes a lot less of an argument when the underlying asset doubles, triples, quadruples, 10x's, who knows? So again, I think that's another thing people forget about is that ROI is calculated on dollar value. So, when we hit the next bull run, we could see massive payouts in these contracts. And then the whole narrative changes. Everybody says, oh, detonator's the best. I love EMP, and unfortunately, we just have to uh, go through the hard times right now until we can get back to, that sentiment.
Very true. Okay, there's two more. Got one more added. This one's sort of similar to what we answered prior, but I think you can add on to it. With so much automation in Fusion, which events will create transactions in our wallets, i.e. central grid to microgrid to battery? Will it only be our interactions with the batteries and marketplace transactions?
Yes, so again, I touched on it a little bit, and this might be a better question for the devs. So I'll work on getting Jake or some of the devs on one of the next AMAs. I think that might help, especially after reading some of the comments. But yeah, I mean, typically the only thing that is an actual gas fee or interaction is anything that happens with the actual chain itself. So what happens on your dashboard, again, keeping track of your rewards that are accumulating, anything inside of the smart contracts, that is just a UI display. So in reality, it is a lot more efficient, or at least as efficient as it is now in the farms. So for the same reason, you can just, get into one of the auto vaults and all that happens for you behind the scenes. It's the same sort of concept. So you're not paying a gas fee, every time that your BBE buyback buys back. You're only paying the fees when it hits your wallet. So power cycles would be a transaction. Buying anything on the marketplace is a transaction, but a lot of the other things under the hood is feeless. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
And then last one, unrelated to Fusion, if we can circle back to level X, for anyone still holding level X tokens, what do you suggest they do with them? And do you have any update on that whole situation?
Yeah, so unfortunately, again, we have severed ties with level X. Level X is not L1X. Again, I think people are confused. Please, put your thinking caps on. I know that the name is similar, but again, let's all be adults and use our brains. L1X is different than level X. So yeah, I don't want that to create FUD. Again, I know a lot of people on Discord that don't pay attention, or even through your grapevine, they try to lump those two things together. They're not. L1X is different than level X. So L1X is still moving forward amazingly. That's the chain itself. Again, we spoke about that earlier. Level X was a partnership with a rebasing token that, again, did not pan out. And so, again, I'm not here to give financial advice. We have no more involvement in Level X. They may end up delivering on the quote unquote casino that they were going to do. I don't know. I don't know. It may happen, it may not happen. So it's up to you. and your, again, risk tolerance, whether you want to try to stick it out and see if that actually happens, and then maybe sell once they are accumulating some revenue, or maybe you cut your losses now and sell now. I'm not here again to give any kind of financial advice, but we're not doing the DAAS with them. We're not involved with them in terms of development, and nothing that Level X does is relevant to the EMP ecosystem moving forward. So, does that answer, LA? I'm sure you can add to that, but
Yep, I think you're good. So that is all that I see.
all right,
I'm gonna
awesome.
refresh time.
Yeah, so I think we're good. Again, we've been burning the candle at both ends. I'm still a bit under the weather, but I will try to get some devs on their call for Thursday, and then we'll give an update on Pulsechain as well. By then, hopefully we have some bridges opened. If you did have a question that we didn't get to, please feel free to ask again in our Discord. LA, that's really where you've been consolidating questions, right? In the Discord chat.
Yeah, I've been doing my best to follow the regular chats, but if you absolutely for sure want to make sure your question gets answered, please either put it in Fusion questions or AMA questions. There's no need to put it in both, but one or the other. I've been checking in with both every day and adding the questions to a list, and they'll always be ready for the following AMA.
Perfect. All right, awesome. And yeah, I know a lot of you, again, that are the diehards that stay till the end. I have some things up our sleeves as well. We're working on a major revenue stream. I teased it a little bit in the VIP chat. So again, keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in a potential way to profit and to help EMP at the same time, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to be sending out some messages as well. But we have a lot of things that I haven't even alluded to on these AMAs. Again, it's not that we're trying to be shady or vague on purpose, but you know, this is not our first rodeo. You know, we're veterans in the DeFi space. We know how this works. You know, unfortunately, we've seen a lot of people give up, get frustrated, and move on, and that's okay. I mean, we're moving away from the don't sell EMP or the bad actor comparison, and we're just focusing on development, building, and delivering. And those of you that are still around, that stay to the end on the AMAs, you are the ones that are going to have the best position and be set up for success. And so, again, there's a lot in the works, even still, within Fusion that we haven't even touched the surface on, and that will ultimately make EMP and Fusion successful long term. So take that for what it's worth. You can believe it or not, but we've always delivered on anything that we tease or allude to. We're not just a typical protocol, that under promises or that over promises and under delivers. We do the exact opposite. And so I think a lot of that will be much more apparent as we move forward. So it'll be a good few next few days as we continue to get things sorted out. And again, we'll give more updates on Thursday as well. So, all right, LA, any final words or anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just for all of you who are here and eager to ask questions and understand, thank you for being here. We appreciate and love every single one of you. I'm excited for all of you to get it, to have it click, to reach that point where you're super pumped and excited for what's coming, because it's a great moment. So Thanks for being here, and we appreciate all you guys, and we're excited to see you again on Thursday.
All right, 100%. Yes. Much love to all of you. And yeah, this is only the beginning. I mean, we've said it many times, but EMP has a very bright future. And I think the more we do the AMAs, the closer we get to fusion. Again, I know everybody wants fusion next week, but it will take time. But once it's finally here, it will be a totally new era for our community and our protocol. All right, awesome. Thanks, everybody. Good night. Good day. We'll see you on Thursday.